Hey guys, I'm back. And as promised, we are going to do the United Americas Commissariat tonight from Stellaris Invictus, I'm sorry. I've looked a little bit into it a little bit more deeply. I know there's like 10 episodes in season one, and I think we will add it to the list. I am interested enough in it that I want to see where this is going to go. So we'll watch that in just a couple of minutes, and we'll try to knock out the European Commissariat as well. Um, Little side note, we're up to 76 subscribers, which is, again, mind blowing to me. Um, 76, you see people with thousands, even millions of subscribers. 76 is not a whole lot. But when you expected to have none, 76 is an awful lot. So I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate your support. Please keep the channel growing by sharing, liking. Please keep the comments and the conversation going because I really enjoy talking to you guys. And continue to let me know what you want me to review. I've got a list, and I took the advice of one viewer and moved the daggone sticky notes out of the way of the camera. Sorry about all that. Didn't even realize. I have got a list of things to watch with you guys. I've got a list of stuff I want to review, shows I've watched, books I've read that I want to share with you guys. Um, Going to get back to the comic books. I keep saying that, and then it just doesn't happen. The comic books are real easy for things to get away from you real quick. And we've got so much else to do. So I think I'm going to start trying to do a rotating schedule. But for right now, the United Americas Commissariat from the Teplin Institute.
Attention citizens, the state banner of the Greater Terran Union and that of every other terrestrial commissariat is now available for purchase. You'll find a link in the description.
There's a lot of them.
The world has ended many times.
Great graphics.
The fall of the Bronze Age dynasties left desert wanderers in awe of ruined cities slowly lost beneath the sands. The collapse of the Roman Empire shaped a legacy that kings and emperors would aspire to for centuries. The Black Death covered Europe in the choking ash of countless charnel pits. But as science advanced and progress continued, the end of humanity was reduced from an ever-present reality to the fodder of fantasy and fiction. When the world ended again on February 17, 2090, mankind was not prepared. For the first time in their history, the people of the New World suffered equally with the Old. The greatest cities destroyed, their governments scattered, and their survival uncertain. Even when the war against the alien Tyrum was finally miraculously won, citizens of a once great nation looked upon their ruined works with doubt that such things might ever be achieved again. But from the ends of the earth...
That's just a very good point because, to steal a phrase, all this has happened before and all of it will happen again. If COVID has taught us anything, it's that, the stuff we read about in history books, it'll happen again. As plagues go, and I'm not discounting anybody's losses. I'm not discounting the dangerous nature of COVID. But compare COVID to, say, the Spanish flu of 100 years ago. And compare both of them to the initial outbreak of the Black Death in the 14th century. COVID is, as plagues go, kind of on the wimpy side, and yet it has paralyzed the whole blasted planet just about. And every time we poke our heads up above the trenches, it whacks us back down. Germany, France, Britain, they've all gone back into a 4-week lockdown. America, we're stubborn. You have to pound on us a while before we get the message. I'd be very surprised if we don't go into one soon if things continue as they have. But again, this just makes sense. And that's the thing that's most appealing to me about this series. It's based very much in realistic stuff.
Earth, a new power had risen, and through suffering and hardship, it mobilized the will of mankind. Hundreds of millions toiled in anguish, but with their sacrifice, irradiated wastelands were cleansed, knowledge was preserved, and hope was restored. One by one, the great cities of America were rebuilt, and a new flag raised atop their highest skyscrapers. For 7 centuries, these flags have flown, and for 7 centuries, the citizens of the United America's Commisariat have never feared that their world might end once more. When the Trireme arrived in Earth's orbit, the former nations of North America, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, had been united for less than 30 years. The North American Commonwealth was something of an administrative debacle following its establishment in 2063, but had gradually emerged as the leading world hyperpower. It was the largest economy, maintained the largest navy and air force, and had the 4th largest population of any country on Earth. Debate has raged whether the Trireme truly understood that the Commonwealth was likely the most formidable nation-state to resist them. Research conducted since the war has revealed the possibility that the Trireme's strategy was far less coordinated than originally believed, and it is possible that they were unable to even conceptualize the nuances of human civilization. Regardless, North America suffered a disproportionate number of orbital attacks and landings in the opening few hours of the conflict. Before even the first alien creatures and machines set foot on the continent, much of the East Coast had been burning for weeks, and the Commonwealth was paralyzed. Within the first year of the war, the Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center, the Raven Rock Mountain Complex, and Commonwealth Aerospace Defense Command had all been destroyed.
The striking of the East Coast, that might just be population density, but odd that they would not have struck both coasts if that was the case.
Successive presidents had been killed, and every branch of government completely devastated. In his final act of office hours before he too was killed, President Nathan Barlow, the last to serve the North American Commonwealth, issued an executive order granting a series of emergency powers to the armed forces. Executive Order 19,407 was a violation of the Commonwealth Constitution and challenged by competing successor governments established in Columbus, San Antonio, Kitchener, and Monterey. The order, however, merely reflected the realities across the continent. Emergency military governments became the only practical method of governance. By 2094, these emergency authorities had no civilian structure left to challenge them. The North American theater of the Trireme War has been immortalized in human history. Imagery of the Vancouver evacuation, the Jalisco offensive, the Dakota salient, and the liberation of Chicago quickly became iconic the world over. Less celebrated were the relief camps and sanctuary territories granted to house and protect the civilian population. The total number that perished from disease, starvation, and suicide has never been made public, and likely never will. It was only in the final weeks of the war that the impromptu international military coalition formed to resist the Trireme made its full presence known in North America. Commonwealth forces, operating under this new command structure, had routinely fought overseas, most notably in the Battle of Jeddah, and the sight of Chinese, Russian, Indian, and European soldiers fighting in the ruins of American cities was a noticeable reversal. Even in victory, the international military coalition was a point of contention across North America, as what remained of the Commonwealth was slowly integrated into the developing worldwide government. Marches and demonstrations protested the disintegration of American sovereignty. The Atlanta crisis was one of the many post-war conflicts fought across the planet, but infamous for its savagery.
Like I said,
in 2153, the Greater Terran Union was ratified in North America by a slim majority, and the North American Commonwealth dissolved. The United America's Commissariat was formed in its place.
If you know anything about the ratification of the Constitution, again, we're a stubborn bunch.
It wasn't until the official declaration of the Greater Terran Union in 2156 that the UAC's borders were firmly established. As part of a worldwide reorganization, the former states of Mexico were transferred to the Central American Commissariat, while formerly Commonwealth overseas territories dating as far back to the Spanish-American War were likewise transferred to other newly established commissariats. Such territorial exchanges served clear logistical purposes, but were opposed by the American population and the first administration of the United Americas itself. It would take another century before anti-Union sentiment was completely eliminated.
I don't know. Most Americans couldn't find Guam on a map. They probably wouldn't care too much. That's my opinion.
Destruction of the Statue of Liberty in 2164 by a pro-democracy group calling itself the Minutemen was the most infamous and last major act of terrorism ever to take place in the UAC.
Interesting.
Being relegated to a sub-national territory within the Greater Terran Union was something
because you do see a lot of people with questionable motives today, regrettably, using the iconography and the names of Revolutionary War, the American Revolutionary War, and I don't think they really understand the ideals of the Founding Fathers when they do that. But that's just me. I find it very ironic, though.
Something of a cultural shock to the American people. The appointment in 2176 of Roman Loredo Ruiz to High Marshal of the Greater Terran Union, the first citizen of the UAC to hold the position, marked a turning point in North American integration. Dormant concepts such as manifest destiny and American exceptionalism were reappropriated and redefined to serve the needs of both the Commissariat and the Greater Terran Union. While the United Americas have never achieved the total hegemony exercised by its predecessor, it has become one of the most powerful commissariats within the GTU. It has one of the most technologically powerful economies in the Union, with its research corporations at or near the forefront of technological advances. Its main industries are highly diversified, leading the Union in telecommunications, electronics, pharmaceuticals, consumer goods, investment and banking, aerospace manufacturing, and information technology. While its military-industrial complex does not operate on the same scale as its competitors on Rodina, Sirius, or the Pan-Asian Commissariat, its level of sophistication is unmatched. Of the 19 models of aerospace interceptor utilized across Air and Fleet Command, 12 were first developed by United Americas state corporations. Furthermore, while still officially classified, it is rumored that the targeting array, coolant circulation chambers, and heat sinks installed on board the Sword of Terra were all designed within the UAC.
Sword of Terra?
The United Americas Commissariat's most widespread contribution to the Greater Terran Union, however, is undoubtedly its culture. The unique doctrines of the melting pot and multiculturalism developed in the former United States and Canada proved to be highly amenable to interstellar colonization. Combined with the large number of colonial charters issued to the UAC, hundreds of colonies across the Greater Terran Union can be said to possess an American heritage. Conversely, the United Americas Commissariat has also traditionally been the most open to social and cultural change. Many of the first alien citizens to achieve permanent residence on Earth chose to reside within the UAC, and in 2549, the Commissariat appointed a non-human to its highest office. The government...
Again, I just find this all very reflective of America. The whole idea of the melting pot, and I prefer the melting pot to the salad bowl. We won't get into that can of worms. The idea of, the immigrants coming to America. America, of course, had its two great waves of immigration, and then it's never really stopped. This just all makes sense.
Of the United Americas Commissariat is largely identical to that of the other terrestrial and interstellar commissariats. Local laws are predominantly superficial in nature, or have little impact on the life of an average citizen. The three branches of the Commissariat government are likewise modeled on that of the Greater Terran Union. Executive, legislative, and judiciary authority is held by the Office of the High Commissar, Assembly of the UAC, and the High Court of the UAC respectively. Since 2167, the capital of the United Americas has been the city of Calgary. one of the only major urban centers to emerge from the Tyrrhum War relatively unscathed. While long since surpassed by the traditional centers of economic and industrial power across the continent, Calgary remains an important political and diplomatic center. Prior to galactic unification, it was the site of many interstellar consulates and diplomatic missions.
Whoa.
The United Americas are unique within the Greater Terran Union as one of the few commissariats which operates their own defense forces. The United Americas Commissariat Guard is a unified institution consisting of sea, land, air, and space elements. By Union law, the UAC Guard cannot become a federal entity, while its personnel and equipment can be federalized during a national emergency. Multiple times during the wars against the Compact, Nex Uprising, and the War in Heaven, UAC Guard divisions have been placed under the command of GTU Land Force, Air, and Fleet Commands, and deployed to off-world battlefields. It has been more than 7 centuries since the flag of a sovereign American nation was raised, but the legacy of America endures. Each day in the Union Air and Space Museum, citizens from countless alien species stand in awe over the vast hull of the Ticonderoga, the first cruiser to open fire on the Algon Republic. Children sit in the cockpit of the F-408 Vampire, the fighter that beat the Vol Hive. But the longest lines are reserved for those artifacts that predate the Greater Terran Union itself. They are treated more like holy relics than historical exhibits, with some citizens traveling across the entire galaxy simply for the privilege of viewing the Unity connecting module and the mobile servicing system from the ancient ISS, the command module of Apollo 11, and the spacesuit worn by Neil Armstrong. It is a practice repeated across the continent, with endless pieces of American history given new context and purpose. North America was once part of what was called the New World, a place where the ancient cultures of Europe, Africa, Asia, and Oceania came together to build something wholly different, something uniquely American. In the Greater Terran Union today, there are 10,000 new worlds, giving common purpose to not a single species, but to many. It is a legacy that has spread across the Union, but its heart remains on Earth. It is a legacy that the United Americas Commissariat has inherited, and one to which it must forever strive to be worthy.
Okay, that was pretty good.
If you would like to raise the flag of the United Americas Commissariat...
So it sounds like even though they blew up the Statue of Liberty, we're still the place where the torch gets raised and the wretched refuse of those teeming shores still comes. And, you know, some of those shores are from other planets. That was really good. I enjoyed that. And having seen the Greater Terran Union video, this made a whole lot more sense. Because when I first watched the European Commissariat, when I was clueless, I had no idea what the heck was going on. All right. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to proceed straight on to the European Commissariat. I will rejoin you guys in just a few minutes. Stick around.